Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2023 Kia Telluride, we're going to be showing you how to install the etrailer.com 7-way upgrade kit. But before we get into that, let's just take a couple of minutes, talk about this, and make sure it's going to work for you. There's going to be a handful of things that this kit is going to allow you to do. Probably the most popular is allow you to use a wireless type brake controller. So you're going to have existing 4-way wiring on the vehicle that this is going to hook to. We use the CURT universal kit, worked out real good. That'll turn it into a 7-way round, and you'll have your lighting signals, so your turn signals, your tail lights, your brake lights, but you'll also have a 12-volt auxiliary power back here as well. And I kind of like the connector too because it still lets you maintain a 4-way flat. So if you have a couple of different trailers, and plug them right in. You don't need to bother with an adapter or anything else to keep track of. So like I said, this is going to be really popular for those of you wanting a wireless type brake controller. And the CURT Echo is the one our neighbor is using here today. These are extremely popular. People have had really good luck with them, and they seem to work real well. With this, you know, it's nice that this isn't going to be bolted to your dashboard permanently or anything. This just needs those lighting signals and that 12-volt power. That way when you plug in, it'll power up. You can hook your trailer to it and now have a brake controller on the fly essentially. This kit will also give you the ability to charge a battery on your trailer. So let's say maybe you have a pop-up camper that doesn't have trailer brakes, but it has a battery on it. You know, as long as the camper or the trailer is wired up properly, this will send that power out and kind of charge that battery up whenever you're towing it. That way it's ready to go once you get to where you're going. And you know, you can also just use this for if your trailer happens to have that 7-way connector plug on it and you don't have brakes or a battery or nothing, this will still work and power that up. And you, like I said, you kind of get 2 for 1 with being able to maintain that 4-way flat. So good all-around kit. You know, if you are planning on doing a brake controller that does mount up to the dash, you're going to want to look more into the etrailer.com universal brake controller install kit. It's very similar to this, but comes with some more bits and pieces that will allow you to mount up a permanent type brake controller. I really like the red arc. We just did one on a Telluride a few weeks ago. Turned out real good, but you know, that decision is going to be completely up to you. So other than that, at the end of the day, I mean, not really a whole lot to it. It's going to get the job done. As far as the installation goes, pretty straightforward. It is time consuming though, just having to route your wires from the back to the front, but I would definitely recommend doing this if you're going to be doing, you know, standard 4-way flat trailer wiring that you need anyway to build this kit off of. I'd recommend doing it at the same time and running those power wires at the same time. It'll just save you from going back and having to do it. So if you'd like to see how it's done, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the back of our Kia, and first thing you want to do is mount up the bracket that they give you. So here's how I set mine up. I did have to use an additional no drill long bracket. All right, so that just clamps to the trailer hitch essentially, put a bend in it, and then bolted up this included one to that. Now you can grab your 7-way connector, and I like to just kind of prep it before we actually bolt it up and everything, because there's a few things we need to do. You're going to have a handful of loose wires coming off the end of it. There will be a yellow one and a blue one. We're not going to be using those. We don't need those circuits, so I just, you know, folded them over and taped them up. And our black wire, this is going to be the power wire eventually. So the kit comes with pre-crimped butt connectors there. I like to upgrade though. These will work fine if you don't feel like doing this, but I like to upgrade to heat shrink style. So you strip the end of the insulation back, twist the wire, and then this is the style I'm using, so the ends will seal up and just help keep corrosion at bay a little bit better. So that'll slide over, and I'll crimp it down, and this is how you're going to make all your connections, whether it's a ring terminal or a butt connector. So we'll leave it like that for now. And then I was kind of holding our connector up there, eyeballing things where they need to go. This white wire will be a ground, and it's just kind of short. You can ground it in a spot without having to do this, but ideally, I'm kind of particular. I want it to route in a different area. So you don't have to do this, but it'll help make it a little easier. I'm gonna extend this white wire. So again, using the same technique there, I'll put on my butt connector. I've got maybe, I don't know, a couple foot piece of wire. And it's gonna get crimped in here. This end, I'm gonna put on a ring terminal. The end of that white wire, I'm gonna crimp on a ring terminal. This will just make grounding everything a little bit easier. But since our white wire is completely hooked up on both ends of our butt connector, I'll come back with my heat source and seal up the ends. This all prepped, we can feed all of our wires through. The 4-way is going to slide into that opening. Then we can bolt this down. So each corner, you're going to take a screw, push that through, and then on the back of it, put a flat washer and a split lock washer and a nut. So I'll use that same hardware combination for our 3 remaining corners. Our 4-way flat here, we can connect that to our previously installed 4-way flat wiring. We use the CURT universal kit, worked out just fine. The Takancha kit will work out as well. So as long as you have a functional 4-way, you'll be in good shape. But what I like to do is take some dielectric grease, just kind of blob it on the terminals there, and this will just help prevent corrosion. And then this is going to plug right into it. With our 4-way, what I did was put some electrical tape around it and then a zip tie just to make a semi-permanent connection there. And now you can take the black wire that we put the butt connector on. The kit's going to come with a big roll of black wire. You can take one end of it and strip it back and hook it up to our butt connector. What I've done, I took our wiring and just kind of zip tied it up and out of the way. And our black power wire as well as the white wire, that's going to kind of run up through here where it drops down. And our white wire, this is where we're going to ground it. We're going to put it on this flange here. It's nice, thick, clean metal, so it should work out real well. I'm just going to use a self-tapping screw to get it attached. What we can do now is continue to route that black wire up towards the front in the engine compartment. So it comes up through here, and when you're doing this, do your best to avoid any hot or moving parts and use some zip ties every now and again to secure it. We're just going to run up and over our subframe. And this is where it'll kind of come out. Right there. Just continued it along. And then essentially I just kind of followed all of our factory lines here. I do want to mention your vehicle might have this panel on it. If it does, you can lower it down to give you some more space. It's just a handful of 10mm head screws. Well, with that said, got it going like this. And pretty wide open right here. But then it's going to go up into the engine compartment. Now I was able to just kind of push the wires up and get them from up top. For those of you at home, it would probably be easier to use a pull wire, so you can use a piece of tubing or a metal coat hanger or something, straighten it out. drop it down from the top, and then you can tape your power wire to it, go back up top and be able to pull it up into position. Here in the engine compartment, our wiring comes up through here, and I just have it loosely routed around through here. And what I did was I cut our wire to length and crimped on a small ring terminal, and that's because we're going to need to mount up our circuit breaker here. So I'm going to put ours right here in this area, make sure there's nothing behind it of importance. Pretty wide open area behind there. So hold that in place. We'll take a self-tapping screw and run one down on each side. With that mounted up, you want to carefully remove the nuts off the posts. And then this is going to go to the silver post. So that'll slide on. Run the nut down. We'll take a 3/8 socket and snug it up. And what you can do, so there's going to be a foot or two left of wire remaining when we cut it to length. All right, and you can prep it, small ring terminal on one end, larger ring terminal on the other. Small one's going to go on our post. So we'll tighten it down the same way. And then the larger end will run over towards the battery here in a minute. Open up your battery, positive battery area, and there's going to be a nut that you can remove with a 10mm socket. Sometimes these don't come completely off. I'm not sure if this one will or not. It feels like it is. Take the ring terminal, slide that over, and my 4-way flat wiring fell out while I was doing that, so I'll put that back in too. But really straightforward here. We'll just go ahead and put the nut back on and tighten it down. To be able to close this back up, I did have to trim out a small little area of the plastic there. Not really a big deal, but with all that hooked up, now we should be able to test everything out. I'm using this tester to check our wiring, which is something I suggest as opposed to plugging into your trailer. That way, if your trailer happens to have any issues, it could mislead you into thinking it's something you did on the vehicle side. But with that said, we have our 12-volt auxiliary power back here. We'll try our lighting signals. So we have our left turn, our right turn. We'll hit our brakes, and then we can check our taillights. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the etrailer.com 7-way upgrade kit on our 2023 Kia Telluride.